Well, I know that we are live on YouTube, so we
Ready?
should be good. Chair
Okay.
Wilson, floor is
Yep.
yours.
Welcome, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us today. And this is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. 2021. Can you believe it? So we are here as the board to conduct our meeting. And before we go ahead, Connor, can you go ahead and July's meeting minutes we can vote to approve?
Yes, give me 1 second to pull those up. Chair Wilson, while you do, I just want to let the public know about a few things. Is that okay, Chair Wilson?
Yes.
So the board has been offline for a little while because over the summer, the state rules prevented us from meeting in person. This was because there was a change from the governor's office about the open meetings law. The board met briefly in July for one in-person meeting just before the Delta variant came in. And during that period, the board did not feel comfortable holding in-person meetings because of the consequences to people's health of meeting in closed spaces. Last week, Governor Hochul signed a new law that will allow us to hold these kind of remote meetings yet again through the middle of January. And so I want to just encourage people to tune in. We're going to be back to this kind of great accessibility that we've had for a long, long time, and just thank people for that. I also want to just tell people that tonight's meeting is going to be a little bit short in terms of the public session of it, probably. I really encourage people to go on our Facebook page and watch our August 26th public informational session. That will give you a lot of updates about where PAB's been at in terms of the work. We're not going to review a bunch of that because that information's already been with the board. We're going to be diving into a lot of things, legal issues, some contract issues that we might have to talk about in private because it deals with people's personal information, some legal things. So I just want to give people a heads up before we really dive into this stuff that they should just be aware. Give me just one more second now that I've finished that bit of discussion to pull up these meeting minutes, Chair Wilson. I'm sorry, they got a little bit lost here. I just want to let people know that these are the minutes from our July in-person meeting. Unlike many of our other meeting minutes, they are a little bit longer than other ones. So I'm going to give folks just a chance to look through this.
I know there's a lot here, but when everyone's ready, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the last July meeting.
So moved. We ready? So moved.
Yep. All in favor of approving the minutes from our last July meeting? Okay. Okay. Matthew, are you in favor of approving the minutes, or yes? Okay, so that's everyone. All right. And so that motion carries. We're going to go ahead and move forward. And we're going to talk about now hiring, plan, and consulting work updates. Yes. So how do we want to approach this?
Happy to get started, Chair Wilson.
Okay.
I want to first talk a little bit about where we've been. Back in May, we had our new budget proposed and incorporated into the city's budget. From that day, we have been working nonstop at the PAB to make sure that we can use those funds and get to the place where everyone wants us to go, which is start delivering services to the people of Rochester and start investigating complaints of police misconduct. Back in May, we laid out a bit of a plan for how we do some of this. And I just want to make sure that folks know that where our progress is on some of these basic items. Again, this is a little bit of a review from that public informational session. But part of the reason I'm bringing up here is because all the progress we've made this summer has been thanks to our staff. Chief of Operations Rosabelle Antonetti and Chief of Public Affairs Natalie Banks have been the leaders on this work. I cannot imagine where we would be without all of their dedication, hard work, creativity, and intelligence. And so when I go through some of these progress things, I'm going to be highlighting their hard work here, because I didn't get a chance to do it during the public informational session, given the way that was set up. So first, I just want to say, what we said back in May was we had to do some very core things that in our first phase, which would kind of run through at latest October, to really build out the agency. The first was to establish pipelines to make sure that when we recruited people, we had qualified, diverse, local applicants. Natalie Banks has been working very, very hard with community organizations across Rochester to make sure people are going to be prepared for the jobs that are coming out and that they know that it's their people that we want working for us. Natalie and Rosabelle have been working to build rockpab.org, which is going to be that one-stop shop for all things PAB. It's a lot of work getting a website off the ground, everything from contracts to technical issues to presentation to how things look. And Natalie and Rosabelle are going to be making it all work. We hope to have that website launched in the next week or two. And when we do, I promise you, it's going to be a beautiful and really simple face of the PAB. Natalie has been working with Causewave to develop a major communication strategy for PAB for making sure the community knows what we are and how they can work for us and partner with us and file complaints. Natalie is finalizing that plan right now. I've had the chance to see drafts of it. It's phenomenal. And I think it's going to be the key to this board's success. We said that we were going to sign a professional services agreement with some top-notch consultants, SMK. We have gotten the money finalized. They've been starting to get some preliminary work done for us. We are this close to having the final signature on the piece of paper. And I want to thank SMK for giving us a lot of help before that happened. We have been working on establishing a hotline for the Police Accountability Board. Rosabelle has been working very hard on meetings with all sorts of groups from 311 to 211 to make sure we have the most accessible possible way for people to get in contact with us. We said that we would get Civil Service Commission approval of a first wave of job postings. We have done that. I'm going to get into the details in just a minute. We said that we were going to be partnering with entities like the Monroe County Language Access Coalition to help PAB become one of the most accessible agencies in Monroe County when it comes to language access. And Rosabelle, again, has been a leader on this, hitting all the bases and getting a request for qualifications out so we can have the services we need to fulfill that promise to the community. And then we've been identifying consultants to help the PAB build out a training regimen and an onboarding regimen for our staff. Again, Roosevelt has been such a fantastic help on that. And so again, all of this amazing progress that we've made, that we said we were going to make on these things, it's because of our staff. We are moving forward because of them. And I also want to thank Maureen Donnelly for coming on in a very quick way to provide us with amazing support and assistance to all of our board members in executive assistant positions. So thank you very much, Maureen, for that help, getting this meeting off the ground and getting so much other things done. I want to briefly talk about our hiring plan. We want to get so quickly to the work of doing investigations and to looking at things, and we cannot do that unless we have staff. So I'm just going to briefly go over our hiring plan. And I want to start by talking about some of our basics, our hiring priorities here. First, we want to hire people from Rochester. We want this agency to be an engine of growth for people from this city. We also want to hire diverse staff. We want our agency to look like Rochester, to capture all of its amazing differences, all of its amazing different values, experiences. We need them to do our job. We also need to hire people committed to our mission of accountability and transparency. We also want to pay good living wages for everyone who works in the PAB. This needs to be an engine of community wealth building. We also want to prioritize our investigatory staff, making sure that we can get to that first mission of investigating complaints of police misconduct. And of course, we want to be flexible. We know that we aren't going to get it right the first time around, whether it comes to a job description or a particular schedule of hiring. The most important thing we can do is not be perfect, but always be listening to the community, learning and adapting. So I want to just briefly go over where we are in terms of hiring. Again, the Police Accountability Board's kind of broken into 5 divisions: an executive office for leadership, investigations unit, a policy and oversight unit, public affairs team, and operations team. We already have a chief of public affairs in Natalie Banks, a chief of operations in Roosevelt Antonetti, an executive director in myself. I'm going to tell you about the positions that the Civil Service Commission signed off on in August for us. We have a chief of investigations, someone to lead our investigatory work. We have 2 investigatory teams composed of attorneys who are going to be doing the core of our initial investigatory work. We have in the policy and oversight work, a senior staff attorney and some policy and analysts to really start doing that work. We have a digital media manager because we know that reaching out through social media is such a crucial way to connect with Rochesterians. And then a webmaster, someone who can help us with all our IT needs and making sure that our website is as accessible and functional as possible. We're also going to be having general counsel, senior staff attorney, and a secretary to the Police Accountability Board, someone who can play that kind of chief administrative role of supporting both board members and leadership. We had to make a choice about who to fill these positions with. And our vision here kind of goes as aggressively as we can towards that investigatory goal while balancing those other needs about pay, diversity, and hiring people from the local level. We have today submitted a second wave of hiring to the city. And I want to emphasize that whenever we submit jobs to the city, it's always a negotiation. It's always figuring out, well, what's the actual best vision for the Police Accountability Board? How do we incorporate as much expertise from different parts of the city to make sure our agency works? So in the first wave of hires, we had lots of give and take. Everything that we initially proposed, we didn't get everything that we wanted, but that's not how we move forward. We always move forward by compromising and always looking at the ultimate goal rather than demanding the perfect. And so I want to thank everyone who worked toward this kind of first wave of hires. Last thing I want to mention is that case officer position. That's someone who is going to be very public facing, working with community members to make sure that their complaints, their voices are heard throughout the investigations process. The second wave of hires is going to be, you're going to see in those kind of yellow tones. We're hoping to bring on someone to lead the policy and oversight work, someone to be leading our policy work. We're hoping to have people, someone who manages press relations and the press officer. We're hoping to have deputy chiefs of community engagement, people who are out there in the community, constantly engaging, listening, bringing Rochesterians into all aspects of our work. We also have some people in the operations division, a director of staff support and development. That's an HR position to make sure that all the people in our agency are following the right rules and being supported appropriately when it comes to procurement or personal services. Staff support analysts to kind of help that HR mission. Deputy Chief of Case Management to make sure that we have quality control and supervision over the broader intake process. And then maybe some people to start off in maybe a third team of investigators, and then helping out more with that case officer work. And then we kind of are looking also into the future, past a second wave of hires, into third waves of hires. And, the more further we get out, the more tentative things are, the more we're definitely looking to learn and adjust. So, I'm sorry, I forgot this in the second wave. We also have some evidentiary staff to help us deal with everything from body-worn camera footage to forensic analysis of evidence that we're going to have to deal with when it comes to investigations. And in that third wave and beyond, this is kind of after the second wave, we're moving into places like October, November, December, adding on some positions, like paralegal positions, some more investigators, paralegals, senior evidentiary analysts, maybe investigators who might not necessarily need a JD to do their work. Again, we're thinking about these things all the time, trying to think about how we can get all of our priorities into the board, right? And making sure that at the end of the day, the Civil Service Commission sees our vision and approves of it, and so we can move forward smoothly. I just want to emphasize that because we have a tiered in phase of hiring, that means that our salary is going to be spread out over a year a little differently than it would be in a full year. So we could spend maybe $2.6 million on salary. We're going to have to see. But of course, there's a lot of not one-time non-personnel costs that we're going to have to spend on, everything from computers, chairs, desks, furnishings, IT and security infrastructure, complaint forms, onboarding, training and development, policy and procedure development, specialized language access plan. These things, these services, these equipment, they cost money too. So it's good that we have some resources in our budget to make all of this work. And again, it's just to say that, the Police Accountability Board, we have a plan for getting our work off the ground. We're moving forward on this plan. We're working very hard on it. And we're always flexible, always willing to work with people, always willing to adjust. And again, I just want to really give a special thanks to our staff for making this thing work. I can't tell you how many different moving parts there are in getting an agency off the ground as quickly as possible. And it will be impossible to do without people as hardworking, as intelligent, and as devoted to the mission as people like Natalie and Rosabelle and Maureen. And so thank you all for the work that you're doing. There are a number of specific parts of this plan that I would like to discuss with the board. I'd like to discuss a little bit about some specific contracts, potential people we might work with. Of course, that's the exact kind of thing that can and should often be discussed in private to give people that sense of ability to talk about these things, not jeopardize anyone's sensitive personal information. And so that's one thing that I'm hoping that this board can talk about. Another thing that I'd like the board to be able to talk about is some legal items. People know that the board has retained attorneys to help it both obtain information from the Rochester Police Department and also conduct other things. So to make sure that we are able to fulfill all of our mission. Right. And so those lawyers have been working on a lot of important issues, from memorandums of understanding with regards to information access to also working with the city to make sure that the Police Accountability Board has the autonomy and authority to move forward. And so I'm hoping that we can discuss some potential impending litigation with regards to that lawyer work. And I'm also hoping that we can discuss some of those specific contracts and hiring situations. But to do so, we may need to go into executive session. And so at this point, I would defer to Chair Wilson on whether or not you would like to call a vote to move into executive session to discuss these items, or if there's anything else you'd like to address in a public meeting, but in the public section of our meeting before you do so.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to, I am going to propose to move into executive session, but I'm going to wait until we just have one just small item, just board business, and I'm just going to defer to VC Tucker. Then we can call a vote for executive session. Thanks.
Thank you, Shawnee. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to speak briefly about lead peak performance. We just spoke with Mary. She does have her business partner as well, who is Ed, that you guys will be speaking with. Most importantly, we just want to remind you to please make sure you set up your appointment to speak with Mary and Ed. Very brief conversation. As she stated, you'll only be asked 2 questions. Maureen has been working diligently with getting those appointments on our schedule. So please make sure that you're responding with that. If you do have any questions about Lead Peak, you can definitely reach out to Shawnee or myself. They did come highly recommended. So we're really excited about it. So just reach out if you have any questions. Chair Wilson.
Chair Wilson, I have one last item. Do you mind if I address it? First, I just wanted to ask if there were any board questions on the presentation I just gave. And I'll just obviously qualify that there are some specific items when it comes to contracts and stuff that hopefully we can discuss momentarily.
I don't have any questions, Connor, but I would say I appreciate the presentation and how it was presented. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Reverend Harvey.
Yeah,
It was very easy to follow, Connor.
yep.
Thank you. As the staff knows, we've been giving that presentation quite a few times.
Yeah. We've all been working really hard. You've all been really busy. And there's a lot of thoughtfulness, detail, and care that have gone into a lot of what you all are doing. And so, you know, there's a reason why we have been just getting focused and getting to the work, because it needs to be done. So thank you all for what you've done. And I know it's a lot, but I'm astounded to see how much has happened since July. And so really, really excited to see what the rest of the year will bring for us. So.
And I'll make a small pitch. If you like what you see, and if you want a workplace environment that allows you to do a lot of great things, and you get to work with fantastic people, please consider working for the Police Accountability Board. We'd love to have you. So the last piece that I'd like to just bring up, because some folks asked me about it specifically, because, you know, as we do the work of building out the Police Accountability Board, policing is still happening in the city of Rochester. 2 things happened in the last couple of weeks. I just want to let the community know that the Police Accountability Board is aware of and is thinking about. The first is the release of a most recent set of new policies from the Rochester Police Department regarding these 2 policies regard the handcuffing of children and the treatment of juveniles, as well as use of force overall. I will say that the Police Accountability Board staff have examined these policies. We spoke to the media briefly about them when they came out last week. I will say, without getting into in depth about this, is that these new policies are all the more justification for the Police Accountability Board bringing on policy staff so that the community can fully understand and have independent analysis of whether or not these policies both keep the community safe and are actually helping police officers do their jobs appropriately. It's all the more reason that we need community engagement staff so that members of the community can actually understand what these rules are and how they do or do not impact their lives. And so that's the one thing I want to say about that. The other thing I want to say is that I understand that today in a city council meeting, it was revealed that the Rochester Police Locust Club and the city of Rochester have been having some meetings about contract negotiations. You know, I listened to the meeting and it's not, we didn't get a ton of detail about exactly when or what is going on with those contract negotiations. I think that it's extremely important that the public know as much as possible about this. And I will say to members of the board and members of the community, we had a fantastic partnership last semester with law students at SUNY Buffalo, who did a fantastic job crafting some internal rules for the Police Accountability Board, rules that our brand new consultants will be incorporating into their work. We are continuing that partnership with SUNY Buffalo and students from Yale Law School, and they will be this semester focusing on police union transparency when it comes to bargaining. And so that work will be ongoing as the Police Accountability Board does its work of building out the agency, because we know that we have to continue to do some work of oversight and policy analysis, even as we build on the rest of the Police Accountability Board. And so my hope is to have updates from those students as we go along, and to have that work hopefully impact Rochester in the months to come. That's the last thing I want to say. Oh, Reverend Nikoloff, happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Executive Director, and thank you to all the staff who are just doing a killer job. Thank you so much for your efforts. Regarding these contract talks, I know this is something that's been ongoing for a while, and we've expressed concerns in the past about how we can be part of making sure that they're, if not more transparent, that the public has updates as often as possible. Because I imagine that even though we're aware of it, it's hard sometimes. It's not going to be reported on maybe the same ways. Are there ways we can use our communications department, our media, or any way just to help as non-biasedly as possible report on and make sure that this is a transparent process, or at least to use our media connections to try to encourage that, because it seems like it's something that's not just important to us, but to all of our constituency, all the people who called us to be here.
What I will say, Reverend Nikoloff, is that that information access agreement, the one that I'd like to talk about the details in soon, has a lot of bearing on our ability to make some of that stuff transparent and open to the public.
Thanks.
All right, anybody else? I'm gonna, if not, I'm gonna ask for a motion to move into executive session. Connor, would you? Oh.
You want me to re-go over the specifics?
No, I think, no, okay, sorry. Yes, please, just for the specifics so that people can know why they're going to executive session, please.
Sure.
Just because a lot's happened.
So during open meetings, there are only very specific times that you can close the doors of a public meeting. Two of those exceptions are to discuss specific contracts or potential employment with people. And the other one is to discuss pending or potential litigation. We are talking about the specific contracts and contractees and employees, potential employees for Police Accountability Board positions and open contracts regarding things like training and things like policy and procedure consulting. And then in terms of potential litigation and pending litigation, we are discussing both information access agreements and the board's authorities and autonomy generally. So those are the specifics. And if the board would like to discuss them in executive session, you can move to do so.
So,
I move.
okay, seconded. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and move into executive session.
Great. And for members of the public, this is really the last thing on our agenda. We will, of course, come back on to formally probably close the meeting. You can feel free to stick around, but we will technically be going off live streaming and we will be coming back sometime in the next hour. So I just wanted to give you an update on that, okay? We'll see you on the